از بیرو یک نفر بره از بیرو یک نفر بره تیز بیا ایران که دیق میارم از دقیقت از ضعیفی هم فکرم سنیدمی میشه بگم باز فکرم دیگه میشه ایش گندش که چکن یگان خواندن میکنه تا میکنه بالا میکنه پس اجاز این آدم است که یه یه کدام جوانی داره نه اینا که ازم دیش خطا پر بدر میشه خدا راستی نو مترچو برای میکردم ما اقمال میدان مونده نمیشتم که در مردم مانده میشتم اون ضعیف شدیم ما بیخی بچره شدیم خلاً که من جان خود میبینم من میگم که میعمل نفس من میبره ما هیچ گفت دادن نمیتونم ما جوان از خاطر رو مونده ما داخل خانه رسیدیم تشکر
A rare look at Kabul at work rather than at war. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me again next time here on Witness.
The Pyongyang Film Academy hosts some of North Korea's brightest young stars. What does it take to serve a national propaganda machine? 101 East examines the privileged lives of the country's elite. 101 East, at this time on Al Jazeera.
As geeks take on dictators, bloggers turn dissidents, and social networks root for social justice, governments are going cyber, spying on their citizens, erecting firewalls like iron curtains, and closing down websites. We ask, is cyber-generated change virtual or real? Empire at this time on Al Jazeera.
In a new series of one-hour documentaries, Al Jazeera English showcases films from across the Al Jazeera network.
We are now heading in towards Palestinian waters.
Two small boats set out from Greece to challenge the siege of Gaza, a dangerous act of defiance in the face of injustice.
They're only trying to scare us.
An extraordinary act of solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Al Jazeera World at this time.
On counting the cost, food, why does it cost so much and how many more millions are being priced out of the basics? We'll hear directly from the World Bank for its take on an ongoing crisis. Plus big business, as Nokia and Microsoft join forces, we assess the tech market. Counting the cost at this time on Al Jazeera.
They grew up as Americans, children of refugees who fled the war in Somalia. Yet now, some are returning to fight and die in a homeland they can barely remember. This is the story of young Somalis who have forsaken the American dream in pursuit of a jihadist ideology. What's turned them to this path? What's been the impact on their families back here in the US? And what can the American authorities do about it?
The Raghi Omar Report, at this time on Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera.
Welcome to the News Hour, live from Doha. I'm Sami Zaidan. At 10 GMT, these are the day's top stories. The crackdown in Libya continues. A human rights group says more than 100 people have been killed. Standing firm in Bahrain, protesters there say they won't stop until they see reform. We'll be live in the capital. Iranian warships heading to the Suez Canal for the first time in decades. Israel's looking worried. And dozens of civilian casualties in Afghanistan after the latest NATO-led operation in the east of the country. Well, we begin this news out in Libya, where, according to Human Rights Watch, 104 people have been killed so far in a crackdown on anti-government protesters. Hundreds of them have returned to a court building in the eastern city of Benghazi to demand the overthrow of Muammar al-Gaddafi. Stephanie Decker has our report.
The streets of Benghazi. It's an ongoing battle and the scene of death and violence.
I have cousins who are in the streets whose friends have been killed right in front of them. The killings are just going on. Bodies are piled everywhere. The numbers that they announce on TV are nowhere to compare. They're just firing people. Sniper shooters are on the rooftop. Every house, every single house.
In the morgue, one man takes a last look at his relative and murmurs, he was not armed. Also from Benghazi, this video, which we cannot independently verify, claims to show what protesters believe is a mercenary, a hired killer, contracted by the Libyan regime to attack demonstrators. And the unrest is spreading across the country. Here in Al-Baidiyah, thousands gather near the main mosque, another city rocked by days of protests against the country's leadership. Chanting "There's no God but Allah," mourners carry the body of one of those killed. And there's more chaos. Anti-Gaddafi graffiti sprayed on walls, and a voice through a loudspeaker saying, "There's no state here." Reports of casualties are running high and constantly rising. The city's hospital overwhelmed. The morgue is filled with bodies, and more is still coming. But on Libyan state television, a very different picture. No mention of any anti-government protests. Instead, supporters of the Libyan leader are shown on the streets of the capital, Tripoli. It's difficult getting information out of Libya, with communications and the internet disrupted. But what's almost certain, Libya is facing more unrest in the days to come. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's go to Benghazi right now. Joining us on the phone is Muftah. He's a witness to some of the protests going on there. Tell us a little bit, please, about what's going on, what you can see outside that court building.
There's tens of thousands of people demonstrating, gathering, getting ready to carry the victims of last night's massacre. There's over 200 people killed. Benghazi is a war zone. The Gaddafi is waging a war against the Libyan people. They are killing civilians mercilessly. They're using ammunition, live ammunition, high-caliber ammunition. They're using more mortars. They're using missiles. People's bodies are everywhere. Yesterday was a real massacre. Over 200. I know for sure one hospital have 140 people died and over 800 injured. Most of them are hit in the chest, in the abdomen, and in the head. You know, all those people are in danger. Hospitals asking for